G2 have now won their 10th game in a row in these LEC playoffs. After a false start in week 1, they haven't lost a single game, and they start out this final by setting aside Rogue handily, I'm just gonna say it, in this game 1. And I want to kick it off with someone who was instrumental in this first game, Caps on his Ahri, the Kia player of the game with 83% of the votes. And this Ahri, is this becoming such a problem that it now needs to be banned away?
Yeah, I mean, it's like his signature pick in the last couple of games as well. It sets up so well for Jankos to play early around the mid lane, and then his roams, his team fighting, Caps has just been taking over the games on this Ahri.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to see the Ahri for so long. I saw him play the Lissandras and stuff like this, but I really want to see this Ahri pick come out because you got that versatility in how it wants to be played in team fights. You can be that damage core, or you can kind of play this more utility style. And as well, then you could see in this game, Rogue really struggled with this, not only in the early stages, but when they wanted to set up for team fights as well. Caps was so good at coming in with these charms, separating out the fights and making sure that like things like the Leona ult were burnt early, the Rumble ult were burnt early, and then it just opens up for Flakked to go wild with that misfortune ult.
And this is the Caps that I know as well, the Caps that we see up there, focused, ready to shine. And on stage, he was just smiling, having the time of his life. And I think one of the things that always comes to my mind about Caps is that whenever the pressure is on, whenever it's these big games, he's always wants to perform and to really step up big time, and I'm so happy to see him shining.
Always
today.
enjoying it, right? Playing on the stage. Ahri definitely not an easy champion to play by any means, and I know Dagda is used to kind of the LPL and the rookie Ahri, so he's having a good game here, obviously.
It's actually really interesting because Cap said that he was watching a lot of Rookie's gameplay, so I mean, Rookie's the prime Ahri candidate that we have in the LPL, so obviously he's been taken a bit away.
A little bit, yeah. Maybe not quite at that level, so I don't anger the LPL fans. But so it's never only about the mid lane, right? We talked so much about the support and the jungle duo coming into this, and again, it was a lot about the roaming of these two.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like every time they recalled, they were running topside, and both Targamas and Trymbi sort of read each other like a book here. Targamas first coming over that ward on the top side of the map, and Rogue sort of read this play. And this is a play that occurred in the last time these teams faced off against each other. Week 8, day 3, I want to say. The difference was G2 invaded with just Caps and Jankos, and they went too far trying to fight. Trymbi was there on the Galio, I believe, and ended up getting a kill. This time, though, the adaptation was Targamas comes around to try and force maybe a dive in the top side. While nothing ends up happening there, I think that just goes to show you the adaptation of those teams.
I love how you said, if I remember correctly, you were watching the VODs and prepping, so you know exactly what happened, and that's what we love. But yeah, Broxah, this is now support's completely unleashed, right? It seems like the bot lane itself is not that important.
Yeah, it feels like we're getting back to kind of 2018 style of support gameplay where it's these aggressive playmaking supports that, you know, don't really care about their AD carries, you just leave them alone. And that is the beauty of what Ender just said, that these guys, they both want to roam, they both want to make the plays, they know the other guy's always going to make the move every time he bases, and it turns into kind of a mind game.
And I thought it was really interesting too how there were some moments where like one support would roam and the other side wouldn't, and always like both teams were trying to like force a dive on the enemy ADC, but both ADCs did such a good job of either backing away or like using misfortunal to clear away the wave and stop those dives.
And that's one of the things I wanted to hit on, is that oftentimes when you think, oh, well, you know, the support isn't roaming, it's not just the support's call. Like, it is part of that is with the AD carry as well. And I think that's one of the big takeaways I've had, especially for Flakked. Like, he's become so smart about how he wants to play around his wave state in the bot lane, as you said, that misfortunal to clear out the wave, knowing there was a play coming his way. This is something that's a step up for both Targamas and Flakked in how they play a lane.
And by all means, not an easy thing to play a misfortune into that comp and to get that ultimate off, but he did succeed. So let's start looking at a couple of the skirmishes and the team fights that occurred, because ultimately they went G2's way, starting with this Herald fight, which ends up being a 2-for-2, even though Rogue actually get the first engage.
Yeah, and I think this is the big one, is that, like, look at the ultimates that have already been used by Rogue, right? You don't have the Rumble ult, you don't have the Leon ult. That's why Flakked is perfectly comfortable to set up right in the middle here and go wild with this bullet time. I think this is something that G2 were very good at continuously finding, where these moments where the bullet time could either take comp out of the equation by just zoning them out of the fight, excuse me, or actually being able to set up so you could get a ton of damage with Flakked, but also Caps as well, just being able to have that high mobility on the Ahri, chasing down the remaining members. It was just perfectly set up by G2 to kind of counteract what Rogue wanted to find, which was these front-to-back fights.
Yeah, and I think it was Caps' Ahri that ended up turning these fights and making them look so decisive, because a lot of the time it was like a 1-for-1 or a 1-for-2 initially, and then it's Caps hunting down, maybe BrokenBlade or Jankos hunting down a couple of players with him too. So it really was the chase and the follow-up that converted into so many more kills for G2.
And one thing that was really interesting to me about the clip we just saw, that you probably didn't pay attention to as a viewer, but the entire time BrokenBlade was just split pushing bot as Tryndamere. And G2 fought so well that they could just come out on top at the 4v5 with their Tryndamere doing exactly what he wants to do, which is to split on the other side of the map.
And I think that's one of the things that Rogue could have done better in this game, was actually keeping that matchup with Odo and the Tryndamere. Because Odo had built this, like, steel plated caps, he'd gone for the Zhonya's, he was perfectly set up to play against the Tryndamere, but you can see they were constantly bringing him into the fights, which meant that you never had an answer to the Tryndamere. So while you do get 1, 2, 3 kills onto this Rumble in the early stages, well, now you've actually got Tryndamere. He's just picked up all these plates, picked up a bunch of those turrets, and he's now skyrocketing into the game.
Yeah, if we can get the comps on the screen, maybe then we can start looking ahead to the next pick and ban, because I feel like our last replay is lagging behind a little bit. In any case, now, we said so much in the beginning of the day of how Rogue now like to play towards topside. They have Malrang invest in that. And that kind of happened now, but it didn't end up netting Rogue any advantage because of what happened elsewhere on the map or how the skirmishes went. Is that now enough to say, all right, we're not going to do that anymore? I don't think so, right? So what adaptations could they make into game 2?
Yeah, I feel like BrokenBlade is so hard to shut down, honestly, and the way that Rogue has been playing around Odoamne is going to be so difficult, because BrokenBlade not only is so versatile at this point with his champion pool, like he's the guy who solo kills his opponent like every second game and was just so stable in the top lane. I think what they need to do now is to enable Larssen, like the big carry in the mid lane, and find a way to shut down Caps, because when Caps is unleashed, when Caps can start roaming, as we just saw, he's all over the place and he can easily take over the game on his own.
Yeah, I also feel like looking at this team comp from Rogue, we ended up drafting Rogue into a bit of a hole where I don't think they ever had like a split push answer into the Tryndamere, right? Like Lucian is the guy that probably wants to go into a side lane, but Tryndamere W absolutely dunks on you. You're just never going to have fun there. You're just going to try and clear waves as best you can. And at the same time, I don't think it was easy to team fight either, whether it was the Ahri or the Tryndamere. You don't have enough like crowd control, I think, with going for the very early Lucian rumble for strong lanes there to deal with the backline dive that G2 had.
And this is something that we see like a lot in the LPL with Tryndamere, is just how good he is at like going onto a Velios, jumping onto a Jinx. We've even seen Tam Kench just try to come out to just buy time, and that's still not enough. So if you're gonna have it, like if you're going to leave open the option for the Tryndamere, you need to have some sort of preparation for that. I think that's the problem that we've seen with Rogue drafts before, even with the Fnatic game as well. Like you think, oh, we're going to bring out the Lulu into Hylissang, make sure that we're able to go against this Pyke that's in the bot lane. That doesn't quite work out. It feels like sometimes Rogue just kind of have this set game plan and aren't willing to deviate from that.
Well, we've seen that in the Fnatic series, at least after the 2-game wake-up call, they did that, and I guess the question is, will they do that earlier now? It's quite interesting for the support champ pools as well, because we thought this would be the other way around when we talked about it, right? Trymbi, who does like to pick up those long range and those enchanters specifically, now he went for the hard engage, which I think he felt that the team needed. Maybe he needs to go back to what he did before, right? Rogue is electing to stay on the blue side, Ender.
Yeah, this is interesting, because you sort of like Rogue versus Fnatic vibes for these first 2 games. Now, I'm not expecting Trymbi to change up his champ pool. I thought that may be something they come up with in game 1, which is play the range supports and wait till G2 prove they can smash you in the early game. We saw a lot of good G2 stuff in the early game, and I think with the way the supports are moving and the mid lane pool for Caps, if you're playing like range support versus Jarvan, Jarvan, Ahri, and Rakan, you are just going to get run over.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised that teams haven't kind of woken up to red side at this stage. Like, red side has been so incredibly strong, and the fact that you can go for a counter pick for Larssen, who we've seen bring out things like the Silas into the TF, have these cool picks, it feels like you're just hindering that opportunity.
Yeah.
If I was Rogue in this previous case, I would actually be unhappy with all 3 picks on my top side. And what I would like to see from them would be to get some stable picks for the top side of the map, because bot lane is stable, Leona is good into Rakan. They can be pretty happy about the AD, the support situation, but Lucian, Sinsa, and Rumble, that's not really a typical Rogue draft.
Why do you not like stable for Rogue in that regard, in this iteration?
No, I mean, what I mean is that I don't think this was stable enough. This was too volatile.
I see.
So I think bot lane is stable, top side is kind of crazy, and maybe if this was LPL, like a really aggressive team that's so good at fighting those skirmishes, that would be great. But I think just getting something more controlled for Rogue would be very positive.
And there it goes, the first team, I guess, to ban the Ahri finally.
Yep, I think that's absolutely the right call for Rogue. Again, like what I think Rogue need to look at here is shutting down the early game playmaking from mid jungle, right? Like Jarvan Ahri is just too good.
Yeah, but I think the problem here is that you're still going to leave things like the Jarvan open. The Volibear now being dropped as well is probably going to be a first pick coming through for Rogue. But you've got to look here and see if G2 are going to go back towards that Hecarim ban, because that's what we saw in the last game. There it is. So it feels like the Volibear now suddenly rises in priority, but maybe you're giving things like the Jinx across here to G2.
I
It's also pretty interesting because yesterday G2 were perma-banning both Siri and Caedrel against Fnatic, and now those two champions they're just not big fans of. They just keep them banned off. Now instead banning the Hecarim, which is a good ban against Malrang, something that he showed up on big time. With Rogue actually taking the Volibear, I would expect Jankos to continue looking for the Jarvan, because Jarvan has been so big for him so far.
You're happy with the volley?
I am very happy to see a Volibear. I think it's a good pick yesterday. I was kind of fuming when Fnatic didn't take it, partly because it's been so important for Razork. I think Malrang has shown a little bit more depth in this champion pool, but still always happy to see the fluffy bear on the Rift.
Yeah, I think too, the casters are talking about the Xayah pick getting banned in the last game, and now that being open for Flakked, how much safety, of course, that's going to provide him. If Rogue are trying to play any sort of dive compositions, we've seen Flakked be so strong on that champion. So already, I think even with some of the power picks of G2, the Ahri getting banned away, I think they have to be very happy with this first rotation.
Yeah, and I think you've got a lot of opportunities to pivot here as G2 as well. Like, you can look towards things like the Jace if you want to in this next rotation, ban away some of those counters. I feel like you leave counter pick here for Caps as well, just to make sure that he gets his good matchup in the mid lane. So I think for Rogue, this is why I'm kind of looking, going, okay, like, how strong is this Volibear going to be versus some of these counter picks you can pick up on red side? Jinx is going to come in against the Xayah anyway, which I think is a good matchup anyway. At least you'll get some push, at least levels 1 to 3, and buy some space for Malrang to get that early aggression that he does like.
I really like the fact that they took Xayah with Jarvan as well, because as Jarvan, it's so easy to shut down Jinx in the mid and late game teamfights. You just jump her, put a cage around her, she has no way of getting out, and it's really easy for the rest of G2 to actually collapse and take her down. I like the Azir pick for the reason that he can actually deal with Jarvan fairly easily, and he has so much mobility.
But Ender, you made a grimace.
Yeah, no, I'm a little surprised to see this come in, because I thought Rogue, the answer for them was going to be a little bit more aggression around mid jungle 2v2. Xerath's pick, if you're watching the EU Masters video earlier, it has been something we see.
Don't talk about hovers. You've been away too long.
Look, I'm just saying that would have blown my mind, and historically has been decent. But I think with the Corki in mid lane next to Azir, we're actually going all the way back to like spring of last year in some of the mid lane meta when these two guys were
Who
playing.
doesn't love Azir Corki? It's so exciting. But no, seriously, I like this. I think the biggest problem that you're going to look at for G2 is that's a hell of a lot of range that Rogue have already started to lock in. And now if you start to look at things like the Jace, these kind of things that can come through, well, it's very easy for someone to just go straight up for a poke comp. And while you've got the Jarvan, at least on G2 side, to make sure you can set up for that engage, I think that's something that Rogue needs to be really worried about on these next couple of picks.
One thing that I would like to see from G2 here to round out their draft is something like the Ornn that we saw yesterday. Some front line that can, just stand in front of the Corki inside, let them do their thing, let them carry from the back line. And now it is still open. We'll see if that's something G2 is going to go for. The Tryndamere doesn't fit as well in this draft as it did in the previous one. Both of the comps are going to be team fighting comps. We need to see some front lines. We need to see some good supports that can either engage and start fights or just enchanter supports that can peel for the backline.
Yeah, if there was ever a game, I think, for Trymbi to go back to the enchanter supports, this is exactly the situation you want to see it in. I think it's going to be very telling here what G2 end up deciding to do with top lane, because this is still a draft where you could choose to play around top side if you wanted to finish out your drafts. But I think going to what they've been doing a little bit more of in the postseason, playing more around the bottom lane, locking in the Ornn, like, I agree, Broxah, I would love this.
Beautiful. No, but Ornn was just so much value for G2 yesterday. BrokenBlade looked absolutely amazing on it. As we know, Targamas has a massive champion pool. He can play any support in the game. Trymbi, kind of same thing, to be honest. And this way, he gets the support counter pick. Lux blind is not something that is fairly common.
Comp always, I think,
I'm kind of curious.
A Lulu, maybe?
Well, it would have been interesting, but yeah, regardless of what they actually log in, Targamas is in a good situation, and he has a lot of freedom.
What do you think?
Whatever they want.
The Gwen, I'm really surprised to see. I mean, it does work well against the Ornn, and look, the nerfs that came through to her were more so a case of, hey, we're going to take a bit off of her range, but when you're in that matchup and you're looking for true damage, well, Gwen is going to be able to give that in bucket loads, and then in the later portion of the game, she can still do a huge amount. I think the really interesting thing, though, is going to be a case of, like, what does Targamas decide to answer? Because as you say, he's going to get the counter pick, but kind of the world's your oyster here, honestly. Like, I think something like the Renata could do well if you really wanted to. You can go towards these mages if you want as well, just because you're like, well, we've already got our engage tools, we don't really need more. But you could always go for something like the Leona and then just look to be a nuisance in the early stages and look to make those
Well, if I said the world's your oyster and it was Nautilus that was locked in, who's down there in the depths looking for those oysters, I actually think they're pretty shallow water. In any case, this NASA hover I've seen 3 times now, but I'm not gonna get baited by it getting locked in. Renata.
Yeah, as you instantly get baited and the Renata gets locked in. It's really curious how much of a turn we've taken from Game 1 to Game 2 drafts. Again, showing the versatility of both of these two teams, but I have to feel like G2's comp just ticks kind of all the right boxes. Such good hard engage, like playing Jinx in a draft like this, maybe not the easiest thing in the world, and the range 2 of G2, they've got a lot of different tools with Corki poke.
I'm really excited to see how this early game is going to go. Last time we saw G2's top side come out on top. In this case, I would expect G2 to have pressure top, but usually Azir has pressure into Corki in the mid lane, and therefore each side has a lane that they can play around and try to put ahead before Drake spawns, before Herald spawns.
Yeah, just on that, I think for a Jarvan, the way you really want to try and play this is like going the opposite side of where Volibear is, right? You don't want to ever be synced up with him because Volley just offers more in a 2v2 or a 3v3, but that is really difficult to do when you don't have that priority in mid lane or even in your side lanes to try and get deep vision so you can try and desync there. I think that Jankos is going to have to take a step back in this early stage, and you probably will see Malrang have that strong early stage, but if you get to the late point and you're looking at team fights, I'm definitely the G2 side.
All right, well, Rogue, they stayed on blue. Have they changed up enough to win the second game? Or is it...
They've changed up enough, but I think G2 have changed more, and I really like their draft heading into this one.
All right, that is the question. Can Rogue bounce back? It took them 2 games when they played Fnatic. In that third one, they bounced back. They're not want to let it go that far this time around. Game 2 of Rogue versus G2, where we see 2 completely different drafts than we did in Game 1, showing us both that both these teams know how to adapt, and hopefully that will show us a stronger Rogue in the second game, specifically going into that early game. G2 have 2 more to go if they want to win the championship, but Rogue is not going to let that happen so easily. I'm doing it. Okay, here we go. Oh.
Good job.
All right, here we go, says Sjokz, and I feel that's
All
kind
right,
of...
lads,
All
here
right,
we
lads,
go.
Here we go, in it, blood.
It's the British boys on the caster desk, here to bring a bit of bants in it, blood.
I'm not getting involved with that.
Come on, it's Medi Vedi, it's Medi Vedi Mark.
That was a wise choice. That was
Medi
a
Vedi
wise
Mark,
choice.
a bit of banter, you know how it is.
Medi, Vedi, and Mark.
Medi Vedi and Mark, do 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 do.
I should be in the middle of the Medi Vedi sandwich.
Medi Vedi and Mark.
Sounds like something I listened to in an elevator. Elevator music.
That's rude to Vedi. He worked hard on that, man.
I did.
It was years.
Vedi writes me loads of songs.
I
He sang me
did,
one last
actually.
week.
All right, so you might wonder why we're talking about our theme song. It's because Corki and Azir have been locked in.
Yeah.
And immediately, we know we're cheering for pink wards. So I'm expecting that from you guys. Cheering for wards, maybe even cannon minions. I'm going to be honest. It
If
could
they're
get
missed.
to that
If
stage.
they're missed.
If they're missed, we cheer.
Yeah.
The observers will give us, I know we can trust our observers to give us like insane spectacles
yeah.
of cannon minions being missed. I trust them. And now that I've set that expectation, they're getting very angry at me. Anyway, let's have a look at this early jungle pathing, as we often do. As a former jungler, now top lane main, what do you think of their early path?
Well, thanks for that setup there, Vedius. Both junglers going to path towards bot here. Malrang started with pink and health potion, very common in the current season to just get an early pink down, a little bit of vision. See if Jankos goes for any early ganks. Seems pretty hard with current lane states. I mean, he has no setup anywhere. Maybe Ornn at 6. Bot lane could work if they're stacking waves. They can try to zone them away. I think Larssen is level 3. He has enough mobility to get out. G2 has a bit of bot push. And then for Malrang, I think he wants a full clear base for boots, get Predator rolling, and then play towards top side. The only worry I have for Rogue's comp is you're playing basically a triple AP top side into Ornn Jarvan. I'm not sure how well that'll do in the early to mid game. Of course, late game you'll have comp on the Jinx. We'll see how the damage share works out.
Also, obviously with Rogue's comp, they've gone for scaling, right? We
Yeah.
can agree on that. They've gone Azir
There's no
Jinx.
Renekton here.
True. And they've also gone for Gwen, who, after her nerfs, I was told by pro players, dead. She has popped up every now and then, but her early game is that much weaker. But I guess against Ornn, it's a champion that you can get through that with. But I've got to turn our attention to the junglers, because Jankos is just walking in right now.
It's a smite fight. Jankos going to get forced away for the moment. Smite from Malrang will secure the red. Jankos now, no EQ for him. Flash available. We'll use it to get away from the dredge line.
A little bit over-aggressive there, Jankos. Maybe he thought a very common pathing for junglers when they path down is you skip red. You go Raptors into Krugs, and then you go red buff to get level 4 and keep the red buff for longer. So he probably thought that's what Malrang did, and he can sneak away his red, but that's not the case. Loses his flash. A lot of trading in top. BrokenBlade could look for the flash ult on the Brittle there, but doesn't have the damage to follow through, and the Gwen pick you were just talking about, Vedius, of course, we saw it a lot into the Ornn.
Yeah. I've seen it a little bit internationally. I've never really been impressed with it, those E-nerfs. Kind of ruthless, to be honest. But we'll see how it does for Odoamne. It was one of his go-tos back when she was meta. But I'm also thinking about this rogue composition. It seems that last game, the expectation was, well, the game seems to be a lot more about team fighting, right? G2 consistently draft for team fighting. They do have a little bit of agency in terms of the early game, but they're very much about the 5v5. So Rogue answered, well, let's just get a better 5v5 then. Let's believe in our ability to team fight them. The concern comes from, like, the front to back that G2 have, a lot more reliable. The poke that this Corki is going to have is going to be very difficult to get on top of. And again, they're limited in terms of the actual crowd control they bring to the team fight. So while Rogue definitely have more scaling options as the game progresses, I'm a little bit concerned as to how the fights will actually play out. Of course, we're still very early on.
Definitely are. And I mean, I think when we're tweaking early game, eyes are on Malrang Jankos. He has space for Predator now. Malrang got the Ruby Crystal as well. And as much as we've seen Jankos do all these great, fantastic early plays, and massive credit to him, Malrang was doing the same kind of thing in the Fnatic game on the Hecarim, and now he's on the Volibear. He needs to find some early plays as well to get this early to mid game a little bit more stable.
That's very true. I think he does have some pretty solid lanes that he can play around, especially on the Volibear. You kind of provide that setup, so you don't need as much, but also in the bot lane, along with the Nautilus, you have a lot of crowd control just between the two of them to be able to lock down a single target. But now we see Caps using his window to move, BrokenBlade moving as well.
I mean, both games, this has been the strat from G2. Shut down Malrang, that's what they're looking to do. The flash away, still going to get the knock-up. Brittle a possibility, Malrang under the tower, first blood, G2!
Fantastic setup there by G2, and you were talking about shutting down Malrang. Now he's lost his flash, lost his life. Gonna lose a few jungle camps as well.
I'm impressed with how they were able to track Malrang there. I wasn't keeping track of how they were moving on the map, but they were able to identify exactly where Malrang was. And they set up the collapse. Caps just drops the wave. Well, I think he had the push in mid, rotates with his jungler. BrokenBlade walks underneath the tower. The waves just from the two solo laners were set up perfectly, and Jankos' timing was flawless.
And if you think back to BrokenBlade's top to mid roam against Humanoid, he did the exact same thing. Tossed the ultimate Humanoid flash, BrokenBlade flash E gets a fantastic knock-up. Again happens there. BrokenBlade just sacking waves, making sure his team can get the early kill, and it goes onto him, so that should stabilize the gold deficit from the creeps.
I actually think the way that G2 knew that Malrang was on his top side is they had a ward on the Razor Beaks. They saw the respawn, Malrang wasn't there, and so the only other camps that were available to him were that Gromp up towards the top side of the map. Yes. And you saw Malrang coming back trying to sweep that area, but the ward had already descended into rubble, meaning that G2 didn't really lose too much as they got first blood.
What I think is crazy about that is that one of two things happened. Number one, they coordinated the lanes in a way that allowed them to make that happen, or it was just, hey, my top's pushing, mid's pushing, do you just want to go? And it was just kind of like coincidental, and then they just looked for an opportunity. So perhaps they weren't even planning on trying to find Malrang, they just wanted to steal some camps or maybe get a bit of deep vision. But either way, it was just very well executed, the way in which the two solo laners worked to better enable their jungler. Ironically, this is how we used to see Rogue play back in the Inspired days. That was a very common strategy and style that we would see from them.
Malrang getting spotted out there on the ward. They know exactly where he will be. And when you look at the Azir Corki matchup, as boring as it is, a little bit of the action comes around blue buff, because either of these champions with blue buff can get the push, stay in lane, sustain a lot. Of course, if you can deny the blue buff from the Corki and the Azir can take it away, the pressure just gets insurmountable. Of course, vice versa for the Azir.
And in the good old days when we saw this matchup, Corki tended towards a more traditional AD carry build. Of course, his damage switches into magic damage as part of his passive, but expectations are that Caps will be looking for the Ludens here, alongside the Manamune for all that burst coming out of the rockets, so becomes very much a poke champion, does Corki, as the game goes on. We'll see if Rogue are able to deal with it, because for the moment, you can see Trymbi working his way up the bottom side, Malrang here as well. Jankos does not know that the bear is waiting in the woods, and here's the chase. Thundering Roar coming out. Stun's gonna land, but Jankos, with the blast cone, gets himself back to his Krugs.
We'll just get a bit of chip damage, but Malrang wants a bit of revenge here. Looking towards that red buff, but Odoamne is getting low. He's just creating pressure on the top side of the map so that he can look to collapse, but BrokenBlade can also choose to sack this wave and look to assist the jungler. It looks like that's not going to happen. The push in mid, the push in top, and Rogue going to do to G2 what they just did to them. Leverage their prio in order to steal away a couple camps, and Malrang will at the very least get something back.
Yeah, you can see it across the board, not just prio, but CS leads in top, mid, and bot comp. Going towards Krugs here, making sure he's recycling these camps quickly for Malrang, who around the Herald. Jankos going to use the E. Won't get vision on the Herald though, but the fact that it's not sitting there might tell him that he started up. Malrang, after this crab, I wonder if he gets level 6. If he does, then he probably wants to full force this. Jankos showing on top wave should make that a whole lot easier.
BrokenBlade just base, doesn't have TP. The bot lane also just based from G2, but it looks like that they're not going to move towards it. And this is just going to be an easy secure for Malrang. Completely uncontested first Herald. Looks like they caught G2 off guard with that one.
And this is the first time this weekend that G2 have lost the first Herald. We'll see how Rogue can use it. Of course, can get a little bit of plates under your belt. Expecting that maybe to go towards mid. I mean, we talked about it being a slow game, but accelerating the Azir always helps to get him towards the item spikes. Handing off blue buff, and we'll see if G2 respond. I mean, Jankos coming out of base here could look for an early dragon.
Let's see if he's able to get control down towards this bottom side. No vision there for Rogue right now. A couple in the bottom lane bushes, but Targamas has already started up the Inferno, knowing that Rogue are on their resets, knowing that G2 now have the turn to move, the tempo we talk about so often. It's kind of a pendulum swinging from side to side. Rogue were able to use their side of the pendulum to get that Rift Herald, and now G2 use theirs to make sure they secure the first Drake of the game.
Nice summation of tempo there, Medic.
I learned it from Gulbook, so I will give credit to him there.
Fair enough, fair enough. It's a great, elegant way of explaining it. First Drake will be secured for G2, as Medic just highlighted. Now my question is, where will they use their Herald? You were just discussing it earlier, options around the mid lane. Do you want to try and unlock the Azir, funnel more gold into him? Often we've actually seen Rogue funnel a lot of resources into comp.
Yep.
We'll usually see Malrang on a stacked wave, bring that down. They'll often try and set up a dive as well. Just try and force the opposite bot lane away because they feel that comp is that reliable late game insurance AD carry that they can often rely on. We saw even last game some of his mechanics on display, the way he was using Gale Force to dodge out away from a lot of Ahri's charms. So something that we have seen often from Rogue. The question is, will they choose to do it this game?
So I will say, because we have a moment, because it's a slow game, can you guys walk me through, if you were Rogue and you wanted to funnel into comp, what would your steps be? Like, how would you get this Jinx, that Rift Herald? How would you get some plates? Malrang's looking for fight in the mid lane as Caps is caught out, and Rogue don't want us to wax lyrical. Instead, they want blood. Malrang on the board.
Yeah, fantastic setup. Predator coming in. Caps knows that even if he flashes, he sees the E animation in front of him. He can't flash to the side because Larssen can follow through pretty easily. Malrang can ult and disable the tower, so again, saves his summoners. And this is exactly where the Herald will be dropped. I think they'll start to hit the tower. After a couple plates fall, they'll drop it. As I said, there it is. We've got the bot lane moving up as well from G2, and the gold will be funneled into the Azir. The way you want to use Herald is either you want to wait, hold for it as long as possible, and if a play shows itself, or you can find a dive or zone them off a tower just like this, then you want to drop it. If you can't, then just probably place in the best lane you can find.
Larssen just going to use the W plus EQ combo to get out of that one. But yeah, you see Medic, very simple, very high-level strategy.
Just kill someone.
Wait for the enemy mid laner to die, and then Herald.
Five-head.
Very complex, you know, as mortals really struggle to understand.
Well, I hit Masters, so I understand it.
Oh, true, perhaps, that's fair. Thank you, Medic. Thank you, that helps a lot. So, I was surprised the Caps did overextend in the mid there. Especially when he didn't really have that much support elsewhere on the map. So a bit of a blunder there from Caps. Does end up getting punished by Malrang. Does equalize the kills, but it will extend Rogue's gold lead.
Caps' first death of the finals as well. And unkilled in game one on that Ahri here.
He is 100% worse than game one.
That's how it works. That's the maths. So if he dies again, is he 200% worse?
I don't know. Again? You're the smart one here, remember? You literally already established that.
I'm a doctor, not a mathematician, damn it. Malrang looking for Caps in the mid lane, though. I don't know if he snuck around the vision here. Caps will spot him now. And that control ward spots out Malrang as he steps forward. A big one building up for Caps, but we won't want to use that to chip away at Malrang's HP. Jankos was here as well, but Trymbi came up from the bottom lane. And with the G2 bot lane resetting on their Eclipse timer here. And so once again, a swing of the pendulum in favor of Rogue.
Yeah, but slowly, top CS always going in favor of Odoamne. We're a bit skeptical about the Gwen pick, but it seems to be working out for now. That kill helping BrokenBlade out a little bit, but just so down in CS right now. Lost the plating, never really has top push. And the problem BrokenBlade has is with no top push on any wave, he can't really move towards mid. He would ideally want to push out top, move towards mid, look for a play, and then catch the next wave top. But no matter what play he tries to make towards mid, he's going to have to give up creep. So we'll see if he does choose to do so, because Rogue are sieging onto this mid tier 1.
Continuing to chip away at it. The wave clear is good from Caps. Jankos going to lose a little bit of HP, but Malrang on the hunt.
Not sure they want to go any further here. Handshake knocks him back into Trymbi. And Rogue will just gain control of the river.
You can see Comp just resetting back out onto the map. Has got himself the Kraken Slayer, going for the high damage Jinx build.
This is a game where there's an Azir Jinx on one end, and they're ahead in the early game. They're 1k up, they're chilling. The game's only going to get better for them, right? Kraken Slayer completed,
Gwen
rapid
as well,
fire,
like
Infinity Edge, right? So it feels like G2 wants to have to make plays, but Trymbi,
For a play here, Featherstorm coming out, Trymbi locked up, rooted in place, depth charge used as well, but the Super Mega Death Rocket's not going to do enough to kill off Flakked. Trymbi will tick to the Ignite as G2 get their second.
And it's Flakked and Targamas finding themselves another 2v2 kill. They did just that against Upset and Hylissang, and they will do it once again. It was Trymbi and Comp that actually engaged that fight. They came back onto the map with all those items. They thought they were strong enough. Ooh. Both smites missed, and now it's awkward. The red reset regenerated all that HP, and Malrang just said, you know what? You can have it.
But the biggest winner here is Larssen, of course. Caps got the package, that's why Malrang backed away, but that's going to be first tower over to Larssen, all plates in his pocket. We'll get the Azir accelerated, but great play there by the G2 bot lane. Rogue actually engaging that play to get from the get-go, but still a 2v2 kill. Gets 3 summoners out of Rogue. Now we'll see what Caps can get done with this package, because Larssen probably going to base in TP to say that he's going to cancel and try to catch the wave.
Well, with the second dragon coming up in 20 seconds, I think G2 will want the package just for control of that area. Flakked and Targamas have just reset as well. Hostile takeover and the Featherstorm not available for them right now, but will be soon. Caps gains control of the mid lane wave, pushes that in, forces Larssen to back away, and with 6 seconds on the Hex sec, you have to expect the Rogue are giving this one up.
But they're basing on their top and mid. They have TPs. They just need to find a way in. TP's coming in. Do they want to contest this? Odoamne's TP will decide whether they are going to do so. Package is burned. Odoamne's running top.
Yeah, Dragon's gone already.
Just going to give that one up. Herald is spawning soon, so Rogue, I feel like they're making a bit of a blunder here. Their jungle AD and support are just hovering in bot side jungle as if they want to contest. Now they're going to push Jankos away from the crab. Jankos gets it though, and now they're going to move towards Herald. You have to feel or look for some kind of bot dive because they have tempo after G2 did that dragon, but they're not using it so well. Now they're going towards Herald, it looks like, and there won't be a play on bot side.
Yeah, the pings are coming through now, but Rogue seem to be of a bit of a split decision there. G2 happy to take advantage of it and will find themselves 2 Drakes to 0. Of course, this will end up being the Herald going in the favor of Rogue, but G2 at this point don't really mind that. Of course, the question is, what will G2 do now? They're looking for a bot side play. The cross map is going to happen from G2, and I think we're continuing to see this. We saw this in Game 1, we're seeing it again on Game 2, but G2 just reading the map very well, always in a great position to be able to do something, and now Comp could lose his life.
EQ hits, Cataclysm, a possible follow-up. They're waiting for Comp to burn the flash. Got the root with the flame chompers and is able to walk away. Re-engage possibly here from Trymbi and Comp. The blast cone forward. Trymbi will spot that red buff is yet to fall.
Smart mechanics there by Comp. Doesn't panic flash. Resets again. Jankos doesn't have smite. Larssen has mid push and they don't know where he is. So minimap you can see Jankos backing away. They don't know where Larssen is. He could collapse towards bots. Malrang has Herald. Malrang has Herald if he wants to use on this tower, but looks pretty free. Just gonna drop some emotes. And I presume that's going towards a bot tier 1 then.
That's the only remaining outer tower. As the reset does come out. Jankos on his way up here. Now this ward will spot out. Odoamne needs to order that tower once more. Does get knocked up. Of course, Gwen, very famous for being immune, but not when you're in range of the call of the Forge God. Jankos takes the 3rd kill of the game.
And it's an easy play for G2. They spot Malrang basing. They find a window to punish, and Jankos goes from bot red. Sure, he doesn't secure it, but he finds himself a kill. You can see that G2, they're losing a little bit of control over the map, but G2 are always finding ways to answer everything that Rogue does. So they get a tower, G2 get themselves a kill. Rogue get one objective, G2 get something else on the map, and it feels like that G2, as we mentioned earlier, just reading the map very well right now and kind of forcing Rogue to play to their tune.
Definitely are, but how the hell does Caps have a 200 gold shutdown right now? He lost his full tower plates over to Larssen, but Malrang anyway, looking for a mid play.
Flakked can pop the Featherstorm, has the root to pull it back as well. Handshake coming out. Root still connects there. There's the Cataclysm to follow up as well. Stopwatch from Malrang. TP coming in as Odoamne looks to join the fight. Malrang disengages, ticks away, but still able to stay alive. Larssen joins this as well. Caps look for the rocket, but Malrang smartly, wisely went back into his own jungle.
And we haven't talked too much about engage, and I feel like G2 yesterday, today, every single draft they have, it's either a Jarvan or something that can go in like a Rakan, but Rogue's only real engage is maybe a TP flank from Odoamne, Larssen super play, diving in with a stopwatch in the ultimate, or Trymbi hitting a hook, so I think G2 are pretty safe to engage and disengage at their own will with the Xayah Renata peeling back. Now, G2 looking for this bot tier 2, they have TP on BrokenBlade, Odoamne does not, Larssen does not either.
Hex flash into hook, Hex flash into hook. Trymbi doesn't hook. That looked exciting for a second. As a support, you see those lines, man. You're reading the map, you know. You're
looking for the angles.
Equations next to your head as you wait to see if you can get the engage, but Trymbi didn't go for it.
The only concern, of course, he has is that Larssen and Malrang are hovering around the top side of the map right now.
I mean, also, he's died a lot engaging in the last couple of games. Like, as the primary engage for his team, he has died a ton.
Also, Targamas with Guardian, surprisingly tanky on Renata. You think that this is a squishy champ, but she beefier than she looks in terms of being able to shut down that squishy ranged champ. In any case, G2 find themselves pretty much dead even in gold right now. The next dragon is spawning in about a minute's time. This is where I expect Rogue to really contest. This is very traditional Rogue. we often look at them as a team that's quite willing to sack the first 2 Drakes in exchange for Herald and then look to contest on the 3rd. They've secured a bunch of second items. Comp's still working towards his, but I think that Rogue, with a very strong reset right now, all coming back out onto the map at the same time, is going to look to contest his mid control and the river.
Definitely 2 items on Larssen. Comp so close to his second item. Presume he's going for something like the Phantom Dancer. Maybe he wants to pick it up before this Dragon in 40 seconds, but I think he doesn't have the time to do it. Flakked's going to get the red buff, and I think battle lines will be drawn soon. BrokenBlade is the only person who can play to push top here. Larssen will match, as I say that, because they both have TP. So G2 could pressure 2 points of the map at the same time, but ideally you want your Ornn or your Azir before the fight starts. You don't want them TPing in as it starts because they're such good initiators or backline DPS if they overcommit. Caps picks up his second item.
You can see on the minimap as well, Comp a little hesitant to push towards the mid lane. He knows where everyone on his team is, but he doesn't have that much information as to where G2 is. So he's just going to catch that mid wave. And the tower in the bot lane will end up dropping. TP now coming through from Azir. Rogue is looking to contest this Drake.
Yeah, it's better to TP in before the fight starts. These champions want to be there. Caps is basing now as well, but he doesn't have TP. I wonder if he has packaged. Rogue could just start this one up, but they don't have information on Caps just yet. G2 stuck in this choke. Rogue have mid push. TP up in around 5 seconds. Caps is going to make his way down. Rogue, really precarious situation here. Odoamne already chunked out. G2 have space to work with. Malrang's off to the side.
Caps clearing the wave in the mid lane, looking for that flank position. Rogue don't know. G2 don't know they're there. Have an inkling, have an idea that Rogue are waiting in the darkness. Ward's coming out. Caps still in a great position here, but spotted on a ward himself. Dragon resets, 7,000 HP on it. It's a Mountain Soul once again. G2 stepping back, waiting for Caps to join them. That ward spots him out once again.
The poke. Caps can land some poke here before the Dragon goes down. We'll see if he does. There's one rocket onto Trymbi. See if he hits another, because Rogue have to pull the trigger soon. It's only going to get worse. There's the Ornn.
Call of the Portugal coming out. Caps goes in with a package. Trimby locked up. Odoamne now diving onto the back line as G2 look for the knockup themselves. The poke coming in. Flakked flashing forward. The feathers fly and Rogue die. 1 down already. Malrang flashing away. Knocks himself away with Blast Cone. But G2 win the fight of the Dragon.
And it comes back to this discussion around initiation. Look at G2's composition. It's so easy for them to just start fights. BrokenBlade blows the horn, Jankos follows it up with the EQ, and then Rogue is just in this awkward position where they're immediately forced to retreat. Their poke just is not landing, and G2 continue to dominate the fight.
Yeah, and I even feel like G2 don't even have to commit into this fight. Caps' position is so fantastic after the package. BrokenBlade and Jankos can just chill and do the Dragon. How can you ever walk in through the package, through the Renata ultimate, the poke that's coming on? Flakked is even flashing forward, so much confidence. Larssen, little sidestep there from the Corki rocket, would have died either way. Malrang gets out himself. Only 1 kill over to G2, but the soul point now in their hands.
And you can see the frustration starting to mount on the face of Trymbi. Their options were limited in game 1. It feels like that their options are limited again here in game 2. The finals is only going to continue to get harder. The goal difference isn't that big, but that's the 3rd Drake now for G2.
And we heard so much from Trymbi about how important it is for him, not that he wins, but that he carries his teammates alongside him. Larssen and Odoamne been here before, have looked for a title, haven't claimed it. Baron now started up though.
This is sneaky.
By Larssen and Malrang. Larssen, you shred through this. Void Staff, Leandries already chipping away at it. Jankos doesn't know. G2 don't know. TP coming in now. Jankos. EQ a possibility, looking for the smite. He's done this before. He's stolen before, but not today. Hostile takeover goes into the backline. Berserk to 2. Stopwatch by Jankos, still in the middle of the pit as the missiles begin to barrage in from Caps. 1 down. Malrang next up. Comp and Larssen get away with the Baron, but G2 still win the fight.
Yeah, it's a 3-for-1. G2 in the fight, but Rogue get the Baron on 2 members. We'll see what G2 can do on the map with this. Maybe they can get this top tier 1. But great sneak there by Rogue. G2 knew something was up.
Rogue leveraging the fact that this Azir can take this Baron down very quickly. And G2 were caught off guard. Jankos tries to go in for the steal. If he had stolen that, it would have been absolute disaster for Rogue. But the good news for G2 is they find themselves 3 kills. They're also going to get the tier 1 in the top lane. So all Rogue have really done is buy themselves a little bit more time, get a little bit more gold into their back pocket, as G2 still have the level lead, they still have the item lead. G2 still have control over this game.
That's what you want with a scaling composition. We'll see Jankos stepping forward here, puts down the flag, and then as it expires, Rogue start up the Baron.
Oh, great timing there from Rogue. And I think they kind of knew something was up, but the TP is what told them that they were on the Nash. Jankos goes in, we'll keep her eye on the smite. 59 1k, oh. Both jungler smite, I didn't exactly see where they went, but it's Malrang that secures it. TP comes in from Caps, who's sitting at almost 3 items right now. You can see the damage from the rockets and Rogue are forced to back away. Larssen and Comp the ones with the buff. And I mean, G2's poke is just so strong. Comp actually skipping the Phantom Dance or Rapid Fire just went straight for the Dominics, of course, because BrokenBlade and Jankos so tanky in the front line. Won't have Infinity Edge till the 4th item.
And we haven't talked about him very much, but Flakked, wow, so consistent. The evolution of this young player throughout the playoffs has been incredible, really. 55, 4, and 61 is his current KDA.
This is before the first game of today.
This was, of course, before the first game of today, but the man has definitely grown a lot as a player, and obviously so far this series, it's kind of been the Caps Jankos show, but still, you think about that flash play-in that he made in the last Dragon fight, the fact that he was able to always find these great positions.
2v2 bot kill as well, they got earlier on.
And let's not forget that he was replacing Reckless, right? Like one of the legends here of Europe. Expectations were incredibly high, and he kind of got dominated by Upset in the first time that they met, but he talked about how his loss helped him grow as a player, helped him evolve, helped him learn a lot, and like we've seen that learning, that growing, and he's a very consistent, reliable carry now for G2. The question is, will that be enough to bring them home another finals trophy for the G2 organization? And
growth's what we expect with Flakked when you have legends like Jankos and Cap next to you. BrokenBlade's got a heap of experience as well, 2 finals in the LCS, so he's had a pretty long career, and now sitting in the finals once again in the ADC for the first time. Larssen's going to get that bot wave in, set up the tower, 50 seconds on Dragon. Soul for G2. And control is so important for Rogue, because if G2 get control, they're just going to poke you out through Fog of War, and you can't walk up no matter what. But at least this gives some kind of leeway for Rogue to look for an engage if G2 overstep. But they're going to push out mid wave, push out bot wave, group up and find their way. And they did it last time through the choke in blue buff. We'll see if they can do it again.
You can see Rogue with total control of this river now. 30 seconds on the next Dragon. I wonder, Caps going back. He won't have the package immediately, of course. 6 minutes between the spawns of those, but actually just decides to stay and clear out that bot side wave. G2 trying to gain control of the mid lane. TP now coming in as Larssen will join the fray. Caps hits level 16. As Rocket's going to do even more work in this next battle. And upgraded Ludens as well for him. The ornaments starting to come in for G2. Rogue with control. Package now picked up. Odoamne trying to go in, look for the damage onto BrokenBlade. He uses the Bellows Breath, but the stopwatch is popped as well. Caps in a good position to flank here, but he's spotted on control ward. How quickly do Rogue react? BrokenBlade down, already dead. The hostile takeover coming out as well. It's 1-for-1 traded so far. Malrang's going to fall as well. Flakked doing so much work here, but Comp, can he open up? Can he find the big guns? Can he find the shots? The Rockets. Caps instead turns it around, still has the package in his back pocket. And Rogue looking hungrily at the Dragon. Can they secure it? Can they steal the soul away from G2? They don't have a jumper. Larssen slides in, but Caps dives back. A double for Caps, a soul for G2, and they're looking to make it 11-0 in the losers bracket.
Form is temporary, but class is forever, and he saw that again from Caps. The patience that he holds onto that package for so long. The Rockets with the poke. He sees the angle and he goes for it.
Caps played that phenomenally. The start of the fight looks very good for Rogue. They're able to just melt through BrokenBlade when Caps is not even there. You can see that this front line just disappears from the damage that Rogue has available, and the back line for Rogue is able to freely dish out damage, but Caps still has the package. He holds onto it. They find that kill onto the overcommitted Odoamne, and now Caps is in the mind of Larssen. He knows that he's going to try and make that hero play. He knows exactly what he's trying to do, and the second that he tries, Caps punishes him with a flawless performance.
It's unreal reactions as well, because Larssen is WE flashing as well there. He's doing it quick on the fingers. Caps instantly reacts, holds the package for so long despite getting hooked anyway, so incredible display of patience, and now he's sitting on a 1,000 gold shutdown.
G2 are sitting on a soul, 4,000 gold ahead. Their carries scaled up, and we've seen Rogue just unable to find a way into these team fights, unable to find a way to break down the armor of G2. G2 now control the top side of the map. 30 seconds on the Baron for them. Bounties available for the second time this series for Rogue, and Odoamne might try and claim one in the bottom lane.
G2 in a fantastic position right now. They would put themselves 2-0 up in the series. And you think about the beginning of the split, no one would have predicted that they would have a run like this. Back-to-back 3-0s. They're on the verge of going 2-0 in the finals of the LEC. And old school G2, that was an expectation. That was the norm. If you dropped a game, hang on a second, Odoamne getting all in here, but it is Gwen versus Ornn. So
Caps is on his way as well. Doesn't. Yeah.
But in terms of expectations, you think of the old G2. If it wasn't a 3-0, some people would be like, Not the best
Yeah,
performance there, G2, a bit fallible, but that was the level of expectation, that was the level of pedigree that the organization had built up.
Yep.
And it was an organization that really couldn't be toppled outside of an organization like Fnatic, and they've been trying very hard to get back to this level. Last year was a bit of a failure for the organization as a whole, but for them to be in this position right now, in such a short space of time with only a few roster changes, very impressive changes.
It's also an unbelievable bounce back. The fact they lost 3-1 to Fnatic in the upper bracket, and if they win this and go on to win the next one, they could be sitting in a 12-0 record run through the lower bracket into the finals. Trymbi might get caught here a bit, but it looks like the TP coming in from Caps and BrokenBlade. They want to force this Baron. Full control for G2 on the top side river. They need to get this mid-wave in, or they could just start it straight away. Rogue, how do you find your way into this this Baron pit? They have so much poke. They don't have any vision. This Baron's going to die so soon.
6,000 HP on the Baron. Caps looking for Larssen. Banshees popped on him.
Malrang has flash and ult.
Malrang could look for it. Baron down to 4,000 HP. G2 standing on the precipice. Trymbi already burst down. Malrang 2 storming away. Comp has to open up. Comp has to do something miraculous in this fight. Larssen has the flank position. Jankos already down. Odoamne on the front line now, but it's 4v3 in favor of G2. Larssen trying to get him behind, but the rest of his team is just dying in the mid lane. Caps and G2 once again route Rogue.
Rogue tried to engage into G2, but such a meat grinder in the backline. Instantly, Malrang has to get out. Trymbi dies. Malrang trying to escape here. Caps is on the chase. Larssen also has to run.
Malrang.
Can he find him?
He's
He should know that he's in this bush. Process of elimination.
How many numbers is his head? Oh, Caps has more.
Malrang can execute though. Of course, he will still be dead for a while. Does get the execute. And because of that Baron forfeit, you have to feel.
You have to, because Jankos is going to respawn. The rest of G2 is going to reset, and they're just going to make a beeline straight towards it. Larssen is still up on the map trying to clear out some of this vision. Does have the TP available if he wants to go for a quick reset, but Rogue are likely going to have to fight this Baron 4v5. Let's have a look. Once again, G2 know they're stronger, and they're just using the Baron to force a fight.
Reminds me of Hylissang yesterday. You hit the hook, but you just instantly die. Trymbi can't do anything. Malrang's just forced out straight away. So where's your front line? If you have no front line, your back line is exposed. Odoamne tries his best to fight back, but the second he dies, Comp is next to fall. Larssen was never really in a good position to do any damage. I'm not sure why he was off the blue buff entrance. I mean, if he was next to Comp there, maybe they could look to turn. Carries weren't together. G2 run them over.
And the thing is, although it's been mistakes from Rogue, it's been mistakes from Trymbi, that's his job in these fights. He has to engage because no one else can really do it. Maybe if you have vision control, you can find a flank from Larssen, you can find a flank from Malrang, but Trymbi is the primary engage as he was on the Leona. And so every time he goes in, Caps just has his number.
This is where it comes back to comp execution, right? On paper, yeah, Rogue's composition outscales. Azir, Jinx, Gwen, terrifying late game carries, but Xayah loves it when you run into her. Renata loves it when you run into her. And basically you have these three melee champions that are all trying to engage onto this composition. The two long-range champs have to go through the front line, and Rogue, it's so difficult for them to actually play the fights, but now they're looking for a pick on a Flakked.
Caps TPing in, they're looking for Flakked as he goes towards the backline. The hostile takeover's going to do a lot of work here, but Larssen able to get him from the side. Look at the damage from Comp, almost kills Odoamne. The locket has to be popped. Malrang diving in with the Stormbringer as well. A stopwatch will stop time, and Targamas keeps himself alive as well as Larssen dived in. But the only goal he's going to see here is that stopwatch. G2 wipe him. That was a 4v5 in favor of Rogue, and still they can't find the win.
G2 once again dominate Rogue in the team fight. They dominate the map from start to finish, and G2 are going to bring us to match point.
Rogue just seem like another name on a long list for G2. First they came for Vitality, then for Misfits, then for Fnatic, and now just one win away from claiming their 9th LEC title. The wave's not in their favor right now as they wait to try and fountain dive. Only Odoamne stands, perhaps looking at the last hopes of a title for him slipping between his hands. Odoamne tries to do what he can, but what can you do into the face of G2? The damage on BrokenBlade is absurd, but the damage on the Nexus is just enough for G2 to go 11-0.
Wow. Incredible performances by G2 these last two games. Just doesn't look like Rogue have a chance. The early game was a little bit stable, but once it came to the mid game, once it came to those dragon fights, G2 were just running away with the game. The poke was too much for Rogue, and eventually there was a clock against them. They had to engage, and the second they did, just way too much damage coming out of Caps and Flakked, and honestly, Caps is playing like a man possessed these last couple of weeks.
And the conversation keeps coming back to this draft from Rogue because it feels like that their options are always limited. Where is Malrang supposed to gank? the thing that he is so successful at, the thing that he's been known for all regular season has been finding windows in order to set up his laners for success. But they haven't really been able to do that in Game 1 or in Game 2. And you have to wonder, how big is this Jarvan pick? How... maybe you need to go to the red side so that you can give Trymbi more of a counter pick down towards the bot lane. Like, you have to think of a change. And Rogue, they were in this position against Fnatic. They need to do something to bring the momentum back in their favor.
Yeah, I think it's time for Rogue to just go back to red side, throw everything out the window like they did against Fnatic, and just try to find some comfort. I think when you look at their success against Fnatic, playmaking mid for Larssen, Sylas looked fantastic. Early game jungle for Malrang. He didn't have much to play around this game, you know? So I feel like counter-picking top could also help shut BrokenBlade down. Whether you want to take away that Ornn or counter-pick something, it needs to give Rogue a little bit more options.
And the question for Rogue is, like, how much resilience did you use to come back against Fnatic? Because it was 0-2 there as well. G2 one game away from glory. Rogue have to fight back and find 3 in a row if they're going to take it. Join us for the Game 3 after this.